The penthouse is dark, illuminated only by the cold blue glow of multiple monitors scattered across the minimalist office. An alarm beeps loudly, cutting through the silence like a knife. On the massive wall-mounted screen, two words flash in aggressive red: "Access denied." Damon stands in front of his computer, 30 years old, dressed in an expensive athleisure outfit that screams cryptocurrency millionaire, sweat forming on his forehead despite the air conditioning set to Arctic levels. His fingers slam against the keyboard with increasing desperation as he shouts at the unresponsive machine before him. "Come on!" he yells. "The password is Alpha Dog 88. It's always been Alpha Dog 88. Why isn't it working? Bitcoin is crashing, and I need to sell now." He types the password again, slower this time, making sure each character is correct, but the result remains the same. The screen changes, displaying a security pop-up that makes his blood run cold. Too many failed attempts. Account locked. To recover access, enter physical security. Key or 24-word seed phrase. Damon stares at the message, his mind racing. "Seed phrase," he mutters. "Who keeps track of that? It's in the cloud. It has to be in the cloud." His mouse clicks frantically as he navigates to his secure cloud storage folder labeled Master Backup. The folder opens and his heart sinks. It's empty, except for a single text file named RADME. His hand trembles slightly as he clicks on it. The file contains only one sentence. "Reminder, you said paper was for idiots. Good luck with the reset." Damon built a fortune in digital currency, but he forgot the #1 rule of security, that technology fails, but people don't. And he fired the only person who wrote things down, and now his short-term thinking is costing him $10 million per minute. If you're enjoying this story from Money Stories That Matter, hit that subscribe button right now because you won't believe how this situation unfolds. And trust me, you'll want to be here for the ending. 6 months earlier, the same office looked completely different during daylight hours. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting off chrome furniture and glass surfaces. Damon was in the middle of his office playing virtual golf, swinging an expensive controller while watching his digital avatar on a massive screen. His assistant Chloe sat at her desk nearby, a black leather notebook open in front of her as she carefully transcribed codes that appeared on one of the security monitors. She was methodical, writing each character with precision, double-checking every entry. Damon glanced over at her and rolled his eyes dramatically. "Chloe, for the love of everything holy," he said with exasperation. "We're in 2026. Why are you still walking around with that stupid notebook? It gives me allergies just looking at it." Chloe didn't look up from her work as she responded calmly. "Damon, these are the private keys for the cold wallets," she explained. "If the server goes down or we get hacked, paper is the only backup that can't be remotely compromised." Damon laughed, actually laughed out loud, and walked over to her desk, snatching the notebook from her hands. "Can't be compromised," he mocked. "What if it catches fire? What if you lose it? Paper is for old people and idiots who don't understand decentralized cloud storage. Scan this stuff and burn the notebook. I don't want to see paper in my office." Chloe reached out and firmly took the notebook back from him, her expression serious. "I'm keeping the notebook for security purposes, Damon," she said with quiet authority. "The cloud can be corrupted." Damon shook his head in disbelief, his tone dripping with condescension. "You're so stubborn," he said. "That's why you'll never be rich." Chloe didn't respond, simply returned to her work, pen moving across the page in neat, careful strokes. Damon thought analog redundancy was a waste of space and time. He trusted technology blindly, completely forgetting that the person who actually configured and maintained that technology was Chloe herself, and she understood its vulnerabilities better than anyone. The months that followed were filled with Damon's increasing obsession with automation and artificial intelligence. He attended conferences about machine learning, posted constantly on social media about the future being digital, and mocked anyone who suggested that old-fashioned methods had any value whatsoever. His company was thriving, his cryptocurrency portfolio was expanding, and his ego grew proportionally with his bank account. He started seeing Chloe not as an invaluable team member, but as a relic, a human doing tasks that he believed machines could do better, faster, and without the need for health insurance or vacation days. He had been planning her replacement for weeks, working with a tech company to develop a custom AI asset management system that would handle everything from scheduling to security protocols. The day finally came when the new system went live, and Damon could barely contain his excitement as he called Chloe into the main office. The office felt different that morning, colder somehow despite the temperature being the same as always. Damon stood next to a new server rack, its lights blinking in a rhythmic pattern, a satisfied smile on his face. Chloe walked in, sensing immediately that something was about to change. Damon turned to her with false enthusiasm, the kind of tone people use when they're about to deliver bad news but want to pretend it's actually good. "Chloe, great news," he announced. "The new AI asset management system is online. It does your job. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't ask for raises. And most importantly, it doesn't use notebooks." Chloe's expression didn't change, but her eyes showed she understood exactly what was happening. "Damon," she said evenly, "the AI doesn't have physical access to the vault. Who's going to manage the master keys if the system crashes?" Damon waved his hand dismissively, as if swatting away an annoying insect. "The system doesn't crash," he insisted. "It's foolproof. Look, just pack up your things. You can take your pathetic little notebook with you. I don't want clutter here." Chloe stood still for a moment, then slowly walked to her desk and began placing her personal items into a box. She picked up the black leather notebook, the one Damon had mocked so many times, and carefully placed it in her bag. She turned to face him one last time, her voice calm but carrying an edge of warning. "Are you sure about this, Damon?" she asked. "If I walk out with this notebook, the recovery passwords go with me. I deleted the cloud backup like you asked last month, remember? Because you said it was insecure." Damon wasn't even listening anymore, his attention already on his phone, scrolling through cryptocurrency price alerts. Yeah, he muttered without looking up. "Take your junk. Bye, Chloe. Close the door on your way out." The next few months were a dream for Damon, or so he thought. The AI system seemed to work perfectly, managing his assets with precision, sending him daily reports, executing trades based on algorithms he didn't fully understand, but trusted implicitly. He posted on social media about how he'd upgraded his business, how human error was a thing of the past, how the future belonged to those brave enough to fully embrace automation. He attended parties, bought a new sports car, and never once thought about Chloe or her notebook. His cryptocurrency holdings grew as the market surged, and he felt invincible, like he had finally cracked the code to effortless wealth. He was so confident in his system that he didn't bother to check the backup protocols, didn't verify the security measures, didn't think for even a moment about what would happen if something went catastrophically wrong. Why would he, after all? The system was foolproof. That's what the developers had promised, and Damon believed in technology the way some people believe in religion, with absolute, unquestioning faith. Then came the market crash, sudden and brutal, the kind of event that separates the prepared from the reckless. Bitcoin began dropping, not gradually, but in a free fall that made seasoned traders panic. Damon was at a restaurant when the alerts started flooding his phone, dozens of notifications about portfolio losses, margin calls, and automatic sell triggers that weren't executing. He rushed back to his penthouse, his heart racing, his mind already calculating how much he needed to sell to minimize the damage. He burst through the door and ran to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard as he attempted to log into his main trading account. That's when he saw it. The login screen accepting his username but rejecting his password. He tried again, certain he'd just made a typo in his haste. Same result. He tried a third time, typing slowly and deliberately. The screen flashed red, and the message appeared. "Too many failed attempts, account locked." Damon felt his stomach drop, a sensation of free fall that matched what was happening to Bitcoin's price. The system he had trusted so completely was now locked, and the AI assistant he had been so proud of couldn't override the security protocols because those protocols were designed to prevent exactly that kind of unauthorized access, even from the owner. A pop-up appeared with instructions for account recovery, offering two options: insert the physical security key or enter the 24-word seed phrase. Damon didn't have the physical key. He had never bothered to set one up because that seemed too old-fashioned, too analog, and the seed phrase he had assumed that was stored safely somewhere in the cloud, automatically backed up by systems he didn't fully understand but assumed were infallible. His hands shook as he navigated to his secure cloud storage, the folder he had pompously named Master Backup, and opened it with a growing sense of dread. The folder was empty except for that single text file, the one Chloe must have left as a final message before she walked out of his life forever. The words on the screen felt like they were burning into his retinas. Reminder: you said paper was for idiots. Good luck with the reset. Panic set in with full force as Damon realized the magnitude of his situation. He frantically searched through his email for any record of the seed phrase, went through old documents, checked every possible location where it might have been stored digitally, but found nothing. The AI system he had relied on didn't have access to these master credentials because they were specifically designed to be kept separate for security purposes, the very security that was now locking him out. He grabbed his phone and pulled up Chloe's contact, his hands trembling as he pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, and then went to voicemail. He hung up and tried again immediately. Same result. He tried a 3rd time, and a 4th, each attempt more desperate than the last. Meanwhile, the market continued its downward spiral, and Damon watched helplessly as his portfolio value dropped by millions of dollars per minute, wealth evaporating into the digital ether because he couldn't access his own accounts to execute sell orders or transfer assets to safer holdings. Chloe was sitting in a small bookstore cafe, the kind of place Damon would have called outdated and inefficient, surrounded by physical books and people reading newspapers. She had a paperback novel open in front of her and a cup of tea steaming gently beside it. Her phone sat on the table, screen down, buzzing periodically with incoming calls. She glanced at it once, saw the name Damon Do Not Answer flashing on the screen, and calmly returned to her book. The phone buzzed again a minute later, then again, each time ignored with the same deliberate indifference. Chloe had spent months being dismissed, mocked, and undervalued, and she felt no obligation to rush to the rescue of someone who had treated her as disposable. Back in the penthouse, Damon was spiraling. He tried to hack into his own system, attempting to bypass the security protocols using tutorials he found online, but each attempt only made things worse, triggering additional lockouts and security flags. The screen continued to demand the same thing: enter 24-word seed phrase. Damon screamed at the monitor in frustration. "What was the first word, Mountain River Alpha?" He shouted random words into the void, as if the computer might somehow accept enthusiasm as a substitute for the actual password. Then, in a moment of horrible clarity, he remembered the black leather notebook, the one he had called pathetic and stupid and outdated, the one he had been so eager to see leave his office forever. That notebook contained everything. Every password, every backup code, every recovery phrase meticulously written down by someone who understood that technology fails. He had mocked it, dismissed it, and sent it away, and now it was his only lifeline. If you haven't subscribed to Money Stories That Matter yet, do it now, because stories like this remind us why the old ways sometimes matter more than we think, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Damon's pride crumbled as desperation took over. He opened the voice message app on his phone and hit record, his voice cracking with a mixture of anger and pleading. "Chloe, I know I was an idiot," he began. "The system crashed. I need the notebook. I need those words, please. I've lost $5 million just while I'm talking to you right now." He sent the message and waited, staring at his phone screen, watching for the 3 dots that would indicate she was typing a response. Nothing. The dots never appeared. He sent another message, this time just text, shorter and more direct. "Please, Chloe, I'm begging you, name your price." Still nothing. Minutes passed like hours as Damon watched his portfolio continue its free fall. 7 million in losses, then 8, then 9. Each refresh of the screen brought worse news, and there was absolutely nothing he could do about it except wait for Chloe to decide whether he was worth helping. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was actually only 15 minutes, Damon's phone vibrated with an incoming message. His hands shook as he grabbed the device and opened the notification. It was from Chloe, but there were no words, just a photograph. The image showed a black leather notebook sitting on a small cafe table next to a half-eaten croissant and a cup of tea. The notebook was closed, its cover pristine and unmarked, and the photo was taken from directly above, as if Chloe wanted to make absolutely certain that Damon could see exactly what he had thrown away. A text message followed seconds later, brief and businesslike. "The stupid notebook is right here," Chloe wrote. "My consulting fee to open the cover is $1 million, immediate wire transfer to my personal account, and Damon, if it takes longer than 5 minutes, the price doubles." Damon looked from his phone to his computer screen where the portfolio losses now showed negative $9.2 million. He didn't have time to negotiate, didn't have time to argue about the fairness of the price, didn't have time to do anything except comply or watch his entire fortune disappear. His fingers moved across the keyboard, accessing his personal banking account, the one that wasn't locked because it didn't have the same security protocols as his cryptocurrency holdings. He initiated the wire transfer, $1 million to the account number Chloe provided, and hit submit with a feeling of bitter humiliation. The confirmation appeared on screen, and he immediately took a screenshot and sent it to Chloe with a single-word message. "Done. Now please." The wait that followed was excruciating, each second feeling like a minute, each minute feeling like an hour, and all the while the numbers on his screen continued their relentless descent. Chloe's phone buzzed with the confirmation of the wire transfer. She calmly finished the paragraph she was reading, placed a bookmark between the pages, and closed her book. She picked up her phone, opened her banking app, and verified that the money had indeed arrived in her account. Only then did she reach into her bag and pull out the black leather notebook, the same one Damon had called clutter and junk and pathetic. She opened it to a specific page, one she had marked months ago knowing this day might come, and took a clear photograph of the 24 words written there in her precise handwriting. Each word was legible, each character perfectly formed, the kind of careful documentation that only happens when someone truly understands the value of what they're protecting. She sent the photo to Damon without any additional comment. No gloating, no "I told you so." Just the information he needed delivered as professionally as if she were still his employee. Damon's phone lit up with the incoming image, and he nearly dropped the device in his haste to open it. There they were, all 24 words of the seed phrase, the master key to his entire cryptocurrency empire, written in Chloe's unmistakable handwriting. His hands trembled so badly he could barely type as he began entering the words one by one into the recovery system. "Mountain, river, alpha, thunder." Each word was a small victory, each correct entry bringing him closer to regaining control. He made it through 12 words before making a typo, had to backspace and start that line over, the pressure making even simple tasks feel impossible. 16 words, 18 words, 20 words. He was almost there, sweat dripping down his face despite the cool temperature of the office. Finally, he entered the 24th word, double-checked every single entry because he knew he wouldn't get another chance if he got it wrong, and hit the submit button with a prayer to whatever digital gods might be listening. The screen went black for a moment that felt like an eternity, and then the most beautiful words Damon had ever seen appeared in green text. "Access granted. Welcome back." The system unlocked, his portfolio dashboard loaded, and he immediately began executing sell orders with the kind of frantic energy usually reserved for life-or-death situations. He sold Bitcoin, Ethereum, every altcoin in his portfolio, converting everything to stable coins and traditional currency as fast as the transactions would process. The market was still falling, and every second mattered. Every moment of delay meant more losses. But at least now he had control. At least now he could act, instead of watching helplessly. When the dust finally settled, and all his sell orders had executed, Damon pulled up his final balance and felt his heart sink all over again. He had managed to save a significant portion of his wealth, but the delay had cost him dearly. The final tally showed losses of $12.4 million, money that had simply vanished because he couldn't access his own accounts when it mattered most, all because he had dismissed the value of a paper backup and the person who maintained it. Damon sat in his chair, staring at the numbers on the screen, feeling the weight of his own arrogance crushing down on him. The penthouse that had seemed so impressive just hours ago now felt empty and cold, filled with expensive technology that had failed him when he needed it most. His phone sat on the desk next to him, and he picked it up, scrolling through his messages with Chloe. He started typing several times, attempting to craft some kind of apology or explanation, but each attempt felt hollow and insufficient. What could he possibly say that would undo months of dismissive behavior, that would make up for treating her like she was worthless, that would justify the contempt he had shown for her methods and her warnings? He finally settled on a simple message. "Thank you, Chloe. I'm sorry I didn't listen." He hit send and watched the message show as delivered, then read, but no response came back, and he realized that none would, because some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt, no matter how much money you're willing to throw at the problem. The weeks that followed were a lesson in humility that Damon had never expected to learn. He had to rebuild his entire security infrastructure from scratch, this time with proper analog backups that he personally maintained. He bought a fireproof safe specifically for storing written records of passwords and recovery phrases, the same kind of paper-based system he had once mocked as archaic and stupid. He hired a new assistant, but he treated this person with respect, listened to their suggestions about security protocols, and never once dismissed their concerns as outdated or unnecessary. The new AI system remained in place, but Damon learned to see it as a tool rather than a replacement for human judgment and preparation. He stopped posting on social media about the superiority of pure automation and started acknowledging that sometimes the old ways exist for good reasons, that redundancy isn't weakness but wisdom, and that the people who maintain systems often understand them better than the people who simply use them. Damon had built his fortune on the promise of digital currency and technological advancement, but he learned the most expensive lesson of his life when he forgot that in a world of infinite digital possibilities, real power sometimes resides in the simplest, most analog solutions. A piece of paper can't be hacked remotely, can't be corrupted by malware, can't be locked out by security protocols gone wrong, and most importantly, it can't be separated from the human judgment required to know what's worth writing down and protecting. He had dismissed Chloe's notebook as the relic of someone who didn't understand the future, when in reality, it was the only thing standing between him and financial catastrophe, and the person holding that notebook understood security far better than he ever had. The $1 million he paid to Chloe was technically a consulting fee, but in reality it was the price of his own arrogance, a tuition payment for the kind of education that only comes from spectacular failure, and the humbling realization that being rich doesn't mean being right. The story of Damon and his lost fortune spread through cryptocurrency circles as a cautionary tale, whispered in forums and discussed at conferences, though most versions left out the specific details and the name of the assistant who had tried to warn him. Damon himself never spoke about it publicly, the shame too fresh and the lesson too personal to share with strangers who would only use it as entertainment or ammunition in debates about technology versus tradition. He kept the black leather notebook he eventually bought for himself in a drawer of his desk, a constant reminder that the best backup system in the world is worthless if you throw it away, and that the people who seem least important in your success might actually be the ones holding everything together. Respect the analog backup, he would think sometimes when he looked at that notebook, and more importantly, respect the people who understand why it matters. Because in a world where everything is connected and digital and supposedly foolproof, the only thing that can't be compromised is a person who knows what they're protecting and why it's worth protecting. What do you think? Should Damon have paid the $1 million, or should there have been another way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss whether Chloe's price was fair or if she went too far in making him pay for his mistakes. Because this story raises questions about loyalty, respect, and whether being technically right justifies any price you choose to charge when someone is desperate.